The House That Jack Built is the newest film from the controversial art house director Lars von Trier. The Danish filmmaker has been working since the 1970s and has made some excellent films over the years, such as Dancer in the Dark in 2000, Dogville in 2003, and 2011's Melancholia. He often deals with highly disturbing or violent content, like in the 2009 film Antichrist, and The House That Jack Built is no different, seeing as the protagonist is a serial killer. The film is in fact so violent that the director's cut version won't even be seen in the US for the most part. The version I'm reviewing has 5 minutes less than the uncut film. I will warn you that this film does include violence towards children as well as animal cruelty. The murderer is played by Dillon, and he's basically in the entire movie, so the film largely rests on the quality of his performance. Luckily, he does a great job and doesn't shy away from portraying an absolutely awful and irredeemable character. There are a few other well-known actors like Thurman and Davies, but no one besides Dillon's Jack are in it much. Some of the characters are ridiculous and unrealistic, but we are given indications that this might be due to an unreliable narrator. Visually speaking, the film doesn't have the obvious beauty of certain shots in Melancholia, at least not into the film's last half hour, when it takes an abrupt tonal and stylistic shift. I won't spoil it at all, but it's one of the craziest endings from any of von Trier's movies. The editing is impressive throughout. The House That Jack Built plays with temporality, for example repeatedly going back and showing us the moment of a murder. There are several montages that at times turn into slideshows and take from a variety of sources, including stock footage, still photographs, classic works of art, and even clips of von Trier's previous films. There are also brief segments of animation. I can certainly see this film being tedious and repetitive for some, and it is quite long at 2.5 hours. And for the first 2 hours, it's basically just a series of murders held together by a framing device. Despite this, I can actually see this perhaps being a bit more accessible than the usual Lars von Trier film if one has no problem with violence, as it does tell a relatively straightforward narrative. On the other hand, I'm sure many would be turned off by the film's nihilism, and the director even said that it celebrates the idea that life is evil and soulless. I could also see those who aren't too familiar with the director being taken aback by the movie's oddly comedic tone. Ultimately, this is one of von Trier's better efforts, but not among his all-time best. Unsurprisingly, The House That Jack Built has been pretty divisive among critics, and it only has a 61% on Metacritic. That's not too out of character for von Trier since he's only had one film get above 80% on RT since the year 2000. His work has always been divisive, and this one is no different. That's all for this review. Please don't forget to subscribe, and thanks for listening.